So, the secret to life is only a secret if you don't know it yet. There will be some things in the following message that you have grasped so long ago that it may insult your intelligence for me to even mention them. While some others of you might be put off by their simplicity, or maybe even their complexity, or maybe even by the message giver, that would be me. So even though I know this is the case, even before I begin, there will also be others of you who I know are desperately searching for the secret to motherhood. Always asking yourselves why you feel like such a mediocre mom. Now, notice that I said feel because most likely you aren't judging yourself based on how your children would rate you as a mother. You probably are not even rating yourself based on how someone else would rate you as a mother. But really, the rating that you're probably using is the rating that comes from your own perception of yourself. This perception is dictated by how well you think you are doing based on your own biased judgments of yourself. So most likely, you already are a wonderful, fantastic mother, and you don't even know it yet. If this describes you in the least, then the following message will be perfect for you. So I want you to consider for a moment that you are in the right place at the right time. But I encourage you to hold on tight because what I am about to share with you might be quite shocking. When you are truly in that right place, the answers will come fast and furious and not always as you expected them to. When you are in that right place, everything you learn and hear will be something you can use to improve your life in ways you hadn't even dreamt possible. It is in that place that you will finally be able to unlock the ability to see yourself as a wonderful, fantastic mother, the mother that you likely already are. When you are in that right place, you can unlock the secrets of being a perfect mother. Later in the video, we will redefine the word perfect into something that is an actual achievable goal, one that is possible. I want you to remember for a second that you were sent here to fulfill your divine soul purpose contract. And one of those key elements of that contract was to bring life into this world by having children and getting to experience the amazing opportunity in this role called mother. Although it's important to know that this is not your only key to your soul purpose contract, it is a large piece of it. So consider for a moment that there is no one on earth that can mother your children better than you. They were sent to you, demonstrating that they're obviously part of your soul purpose contract. Even if these kids were brought to you by adoption, you were still divinely put in place to take them as your own. When you accept them as your own, this is when the contract takes full effect. As with every soul purpose, when the purpose is handed down to you and you sign that contract, there is divine help waiting at your fingertips. But only if you do what is necessary to unlock it. There is knowledge, blessings, and power available to all women who have been enlisted as a mother, but only if you are willing to take the time and energy to investigating the myths that are holding you back from experiencing the fullness of this contract. Now you're ready. Let's go. Myth number 1, motherhood demands complete self-sacrifice. So I don't know about you, but when I get up in the morning, I hit the ground running. I have diapers to change. I have to feed them breakfast. I am just running, trying to get them to school or wherever we're going in the morning. And I don't know about you, but when I get hungry, I am irritable. I am flaky. My brain's not working right. I am just not fun to be around. So by the time it's 12 and I still haven't taken the time to eat, everything they do is starting to get on my nerves. And I'm sure that when I yell at them, they would have rathered that I'd just taken the 10 minutes to eat breakfast in the morning. Unless I am willing to take the time to serve myself, I am worth less to them. Not worth nothing, just worth a lot less. You have to love yourself completely before you can love anyone else. You may think you love others, but really you're just fooling yourself. You can only love others to the degree that you love yourself. The weaknesses and the strengths. The darkness and the light. The imperfections as well as the perfections. The first time I realized this was a couple of months ago. I went to Florida to visit my brothers, and one night my little brother and I went to Denny's at like 12 in the morning. So we were sitting there, and as it happens lately, our conversation turned into a deeper conversation. And we were sitting there, and my brother started to tell me about how much he loved himself. And he just had tears streaming down his face. If you can just picture this. We are in Denny's at 12 in the morning, and my brother is crying. And he said, I know you're going to want to deflect the situation because that's what you do. But just give yourself a moment and allow yourself to feel this. So I did. I just sat there and watched as my brother cried and just let the moment soak in. So then he looked at me and he said, hey, Marie, how do you feel about yourself? Like, do you like the way you look? What do you think about yourself? And I said, you know what? I think I'm okay with myself. I used to be really self-conscious in high school, but I'm totally fine with who I am now. And he looked at me again. He's like, are you sure about that? Or is that just what you're telling yourself? And all of a sudden I was like, I don't know. I think that. And he's like, really? No, take a minute and let me know. And I had no answer for him. I realized I had not taken the time to do inventory on myself in I don't know how long. So when I went to bed that night, I lay there thinking about it, and I realized I don't like it. I don't give myself time to eat right. I don't give myself time to work out. I don't take the time to do anything for me. Sure, I go out with my friends, but that's more about them and about escaping than about me. So that's when I made a commitment to get to know myself and to find out if I was someone worth knowing. And I bet you can tell, just by looking at me, I got my answer. Still know that this doesn't mean I walk around with hearts and flowers following me. My kids still cry. They still act like, well, kids. Life still isn't perfect, but it is a heck of a lot better. Which leads me to myth number 2. Perfection in motherhood is possible. So have you ever been to one of those play groups, where the moms show up looking like they just stepped out of a magazine? The kids are all there. They look like they just stepped out of a J. Crew magazine. Everyone looks perfect. Everyone's talking in their nicest voice. And you just look at them and think, wow, they have got it all together. And inside your heart, that back at home, you don't have it all together and you are falling apart. The problem is perfection is like a mirage. We can see it in the distance and it looks awesome. But right before we reach it, it disappears. There is no such thing as perfection, only progress. So the other night, I was hanging out with my friends at my house, having a little party, and the kids were supposed to be asleep. Well, in all the commotion, they got really excited and came downstairs and started hanging out. My 6-year-old got a little more rowdy than I would have liked him to be, and it was totally cutting into my playtime. So I asked him to go play in the other room quietly, and he looked me straight in the face and said no. So very calmly, I just said, okay, but I would like you to go look on the consequence chart and tell me what the consequence is for you telling me no. He said nothing. He didn't even look at the chart. He just walked out and played quietly for the rest of the night. My friends' mouths dropped. They looked at me and they were like, wow, that was incredibly effective. I'm sure to them, it looked like perfection. But what they didn't see was the agony it took to get me there. It was literally like a 6-hour time period that felt like an eternity of hell. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to just lock my kids and myself in our rooms and never come out. Instead, I said a prayer that I might be able to learn something from this trial. What I wanted to do was run away and just be ticked off all day. What I was inspired to do instead was just sit down and just really talk to my kids. To be clear about the rules and what the consequences might be if they broke those rules. And I even allowed them to make their own consequences, the good consequences as well as the bad. And ever since that moment, life has been so much easier. It's not perfection, but man, it is progress. And I will take that any day of the week. So myth number 3 is our children's actions are a measurement of our own self-worth. So let me tell you a little story that maybe you can relate to. I was on a plane. I had 2 little babies and one on the way, and I was on a plane coming home from Utah after Christmas break. The plane ride there was awesome. My kids were so good, and everyone on the plane came up to me afterwards and told me how amazing my kids were. So, of course, I was congratulating myself forever. Well, the way home was not the case at all. Now, I realized that picking a 5:30 in the morning flight in the first place was probably my own fault, right? I should have known better. But my kids were kicking and screaming and crying and fighting and throwing things. Every single embarrassing, annoying thing you can think of, they were doing. Needless to say, there was no one congratulating me after that flight. I walked off that plane completely defeated. I felt so devastated. So I talk about this a little bit in my book, Confessions of the Everyday Mother. My entire self-esteem was wrapped up in my worth as a mother. And that identity I placed myself in. Mostly because, as I said before, that's all I had. I wasn't willing to see myself for me out of the fear of what I might find. And even as I wrote that book, I was still buying into that myth. If you were to criticize me on any other part of me, my weight, my looks, or anything else about me, I might be offended, or I might even agree. But the second you were to criticize me as a mother, I would be crushed. Every time my husband said something like, "These kids are wild, they are driving me crazy," in my brain, I totally translated that into, I'm a bad mother. I haven't controlled my kids. Nobody wants to be a bad mom, but in order to prove that I was a good mom, I was controlling my kids into a certain box that society would find acceptable. And don't get me wrong, I was doing an awesome job of it. My kids are kind and polite and everything they should be, but I'm ashamed to say that up until recently, I was doing it the wrong way. So now instead of forcing them, they feel my love and acceptance for them because I love and accept myself. And so now when they make those right choices, they make them because they feel safe and they feel comfortable. Our worth as humans, not even as mothers, but as humans, is independent of anyone else's actions, including that of our spouse or child. I find it so funny because you would not be offended if someone said your neighbor was not a nice person. You would not think to yourself, "Aw, man, I guess I'm not worth anything because I didn't train my neighbor to be perfect." The same thing is true for our family. We just need to take the "I'm not good enough" completely out of the equation. Not all of motherhood is horrible. There are those moments that are magical, that fill our hearts, revive our spirits, and remind us why we started this journey in the first place. These are just a few of the many myths that we as mothers are facing. So stick with me. Join me over at mothermythstribe.com. Join the tribe and let me continue to teach you the secrets to transforming the challenges of motherhood into joyful, perfect moments. At mothermythstribe.com, you will find other women who have already unleashed these secrets. And you'll find other women who are just starting that. But also, you will find the men that are willing to support us. That has been the biggest surprise to me in this journey, is how many men are so completely willing to support us in everything we feel and everything we are doing. We so often feel like we have to do it alone, and we would be so ashamed if our husbands or our brothers or anyone else knew how we were really feeling. But they are there for us, ready to support us in any way possible. I cannot wait to continue this conversation. Join me at mothermythstribe.com.